Top 7 behaviors that reveal someone's true character. Character is not what people say about themselves. It is rarely even what they intend. Character is what shows up in the small, unguarded moments, in how someone treats a person who cannot do anything for them, in what they do when they think no one important is watching, in how they handle situations where honesty would cost them something. Most people present a version of themselves that has been curated, consciously or not, for the situations that feel important. The job interview, the first date, the meeting with someone they want to impress. In those moments, behavior is managed. What tells you more is everything else. These are the 7 behaviors that reveal someone's true character, and why each one matters more than it might appear. Number 7. How they treat people in the service industry. This one has been observed so consistently across so many different cultural contexts that it has become something close to a rule. If you want to know who someone really is, watch how they treat the waiter. Not because waiters deserve special consideration beyond anyone else, but because the waiter represents a category of person who cannot easily push back, who is in a position of service, and whose opinion of the customer carries no professional or social consequence. There is almost nothing to gain from being kind to a waiter, and almost nothing to lose from being rude, which means that how someone treats a waiter is very close to how they treat people when their behavior is genuinely unmanaged. Research on social behavior and status has found that people are significantly more likely to display prosocial behaviors, kindness, patience, consideration, toward people they perceive as equal or superior in status, and significantly more likely to display antisocial behaviors toward people they perceive as subordinate. The waiter test, as it has been informally called, is an efficient proxy for revealing which direction someone's behavior drifts when the social pressure to perform well is removed. Number 6. What they do when they make a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes. That is not character. What happens next is, there are essentially 3 responses to making a mistake. The first is denial. The mistake did not happen, or it was someone else's fault, or the circumstances made it inevitable. The second is overcorrection, excessive apology, performative guilt, making the recovery about yourself rather than about the impact on others. The third is clean accountability, acknowledging what happened, understanding why, making it right where possible, and adjusting so it does not happen again. Most people slide toward the first 2. Clean accountability is rarer than it should be, and when you see it, it tells you something important. Research on the psychology of apology, including work by psychologist Roy Lewicki and colleagues, has found that effective apologies contain specific elements: an acknowledgement of the wrongdoing, an expression of responsibility, an offer of repair, and a commitment to change. Crucially, research has also found that the willingness to offer this kind of full apology, rather than a partial or defensive one, is strongly correlated with the depth of the person's concern for the relationship and for the other person's experience, rather than for their own reputation. How someone handles being wrong reveals how much they actually care about being right in the way that matters. Number 5. How they talk about people who are not in the room. This is one of the most reliable character indicators available, and one of the most commonly overlooked. When someone speaks badly about people who are not present, easily, freely, without apparent discomfort, the information that is actually being communicated is not primarily about the absent person. It is about the speaker. It tells you that this person is comfortable constructing narratives about others without verification, that they are willing to damage someone's reputation for the social currency of an interesting story, and that they will, in all likelihood, do the same to you when you are the one who is not in the room. Research on gossip and social behavior, including work by evolutionary psychologist Robin Dunbar, has found that gossip serves important social bonding functions and is not inherently harmful. The relevant distinction is between descriptive gossip, sharing information about others, and evaluative gossip, passing judgment on others' character and worth. It is specifically the second kind, the freely expressed contempt for absent people, that signals something concerning about the speaker's relationship with loyalty and honesty. Conversely, someone who speaks carefully and generously about people who are not present, who gives the benefit of the doubt, who declines to speculate beyond what they know, is demonstrating something that is genuinely rare and genuinely valuable. Number 4. How they handle situations where they have all the power. Power reveals character in a way that equality cannot. When two people are on equal footing, both have incentives to behave well. The social contract is enforced by mutual vulnerability. But when one person has significantly more power than the other, whether it is a manager and an employee, a landlord and a tenant, a parent and a child, the person with more power has much less to lose from behaving badly. The enforcement mechanism is weakened, and what remains to govern behavior is character. Research on power and behavior has consistently found that increases in power lead to decreases in perspective taking, the ability and willingness to consider others' points of view, and increases in self-focused thinking and action. Psychologist Dr. Keltner, whose research on the psychology of power has been among the most influential in the field, has described this as the power paradox. The qualities that help people gain power, empathy, social intelligence, and collaborative behavior, are frequently eroded by the experience of holding it. The person who holds power over others and uses it with restraint, with consideration, with genuine attention to the well-being of those below them, is demonstrating something that power actively works against. That is character. Number 3. Whether their behavior changes based on who is watching. Consistency is one of the clearest markers of genuine character. An inconsistency, specifically the pattern of behaving differently when observed versus unobserved, is one of the clearest markers of its absence. The person whose behavior changes significantly based on who is watching is revealing that their public behavior is a performance rather than an expression of who they actually are. The values being demonstrated in the observed moments are not actually their values. They are the values they believe are expected of them in that context. Psychologist Mark Snyder's research on self-monitoring, published across multiple studies in the 1970s and 1980s, found that people vary significantly in the degree to which they adjust their behavior based on social context. High self-monitors, who calibrate their behavior closely to what they believe is expected in each situation, show significantly less behavioral consistency across context than low self-monitors, whose behavior remains relatively stable regardless of audience. Genuine character is demonstrated in the gap between observed and unobserved behavior. The person who is kind when someone is watching and dismissive when no one is has demonstrated which one is real. Number 2. How they respond when someone they care about succeeds. Jealousy and envy are among the most uncomfortable emotions in the human repertoire, and they are common enough that their presence alone is not a character verdict. What reveals character is what people do with those feelings. The person of genuine character feels the discomfort when someone close to them succeeds in a way they have also wanted and chooses, despite that discomfort, to celebrate genuinely. To be present for someone else's good moment without making it about themselves. To hold their own disappointment privately and let the other person have the full space of their achievement. Research on the experience of benign envy versus malicious envy, developed by psychologist Niels van de Ven and others, has found that while both forms involve the recognition that someone else has something you want, they diverge in their motivational consequences. Benign envy motivates self-improvement. Malicious envy motivates tearing down the other person. The choice between these responses is not determined by the feeling. It is determined by character. How someone behaves when they are genuinely happy for someone else, despite having reason not to be, tells you more about them than almost any other single moment. Number 1. What they do with their commitments when keeping them becomes inconvenient. Anyone can keep a commitment when keeping it is easy. The character signal comes when it is not. The inconvenient commitment is the one made before circumstances changed, before something more attractive came along, before the effort required became clearer than it seemed in the moment of promising. The test of character is not in the making of commitments. Almost everyone makes them freely. The test is in what happens when keeping them costs something real. Research on integrity and behavioral consistency, including work on what psychologists call behavioral reliability, has found that the predictability tie of a person's follow-through on commitments is one of the strongest available predictors of trustworthiness. Not the stated intention, not the warmth with which the commitment was made, the actual pattern of follow-through over time. This does not mean that commitments can never be renegotiated or that circumstances never genuinely change in ways that warrant it. They do. What reveals character is not the occasional renegotiation, but the pattern. Whether inconvenience, distraction, or a better option consistently results in commitments quietly dissolving, or whether the person finds a way to honor what they said they would do. People show you who they are in the moments when it would be easier to be someone else. And the person who keeps the commitment when breaking, it would have been simpler has told you something that all the words in the world could not.